In criminal proceedings, the place of trial is always a criminal court. But in which court the trial takes place, whether it is in a court of session or in the court of magistrate? Well, it depends upon the nature of the offense and also many other factors. For this, we have to learn about the hierarchy of criminal courts, that is, how the courts are classified, who constitutes each court, and what are the powers and jurisdiction of each of the criminal courts. Let us cover all those things in the next few minutes.
We have taken all things into consideration. We think this is the best. I wrote to him a letter from Naples. And political and economic stamina. This is what I will. How can you deny save your life at the cost of the life of my people?
When we talk about hierarchy of criminal courts, we are talking about three things. For the sake of remembering, we can say it as 3 C's. The first C is classification, the second C is constitution, and the third C is competency. Therefore, when we say hierarchy of criminal courts, it means the classification, constitution, and competency of the criminal courts. To begin with, let us discuss about the classification of criminal courts. Criminal courts may be classified under the following heads: the Supreme Court, the High Court, courts of session, courts of judicial magistrates, courts of metropolitan magistrates, and finally, executive magistrates. So, when we talk about the classification of criminal courts, we are talking about the Supreme Court, High Court, Sessions Court, Judicial Magistrates Court, Metropolitan Magistrates Court, and finally, Executive Magistrates. Now, let us move to the second criteria in the hierarchy of criminal courts, which is nothing but constitution. So, who constitute each of these courts? We know that Supreme Court and High Courts are constituted by their respective judges, who constitute the Sessions Court. Every Sessions Court is headed by District Sessions Judge and Additional District Sessions Judge. Next to them is the Assistant Sessions Judge. In the same manner, a Judicial Magistrate Court is headed by the Chief Judicial Magistrate and Additional Chief Judicial Magistrate. Next to them is the designation of Special Judicial Magistrate of First Class, and below him is the designation of Special Judicial Magistrate of Second Class. Following the similar pattern, the Metropolitan Magistrate Court is headed by the Chief Metropolitan Magistrate and Additional Chief Metropolitan Magistrate. Next to them is the Special Metropolitan Magistrate. Finally, let us move to the Executive Magistrates, who come under the control of the state government. They are classified as District Magistrate and Additional District Magistrate. Followed by them is the Subdivisional Magistrate, and next to him is the Special Executive Magistrate. So, when we talk about the constitution of the criminal courts, we have to remember the designations which have been mentioned so far. As the third criteria, as mentioned in the hierarchy of criminal courts, let us move to the competency. By the competency of the criminal court, we mean two things. The first one is the power, and the second one is the jurisdiction. Power means up to what extent a criminal court can award punishment. The punishment might be in terms of imprisonment or fine or even both. Jurisdiction means within what territorial limits a criminal court can exercise its jurisdiction, specifically over the persons charged with the commissions of offences. Therefore, power and jurisdiction are the two factors when we talk about competency. Let us consider the powers of the criminal court, that is, to what extent it can award punishments. Supreme Court and High Courts can pass any sentence that is authorized by the law. So, they can even award as a punishment life imprisonment or even death sentence. A sessions judge or an additional sessions judge also has the power to pass any sentence that is authorized by the law. But any death sentence, if passed by them, is subjected to the confirmation by the High Court. Assistant Sessions Judge has the power to award imprisonment up to 10 years or fine without any limit. Moving to the Judicial Magistrate Court, any Chief Judicial Magistrate or additional Chief Judicial Magistrate has the power to award imprisonment up to 7 years or fine without any limit. Placed next to him, any Special Judicial Magistrate of first class has the power to award imprisonment up to 3 years. Coming next to him, a Special Judicial Magistrate of second class has the power to sentence any person to imprisonment up to 1 year. Now, let us move to the Metropolitan Magistrate Courts. Here, the Chief Metropolitan Magistrate and the Additional Chief Metropolitan Magistrate also have the powers to award imprisonment up to 7 years and fine without any limit. In other words, they have the same power that is held by the heads of Judicial Magistrate Courts. Standing next in line, any Special Metropolitan Magistrate has the power to award imprisonment up to 3 years. In other words, they share the same powers of Special Judicial Magistrate of first class. Now, let us move to a distinct unit, which is nothing but Executive Magistrates. Before jumping into their powers, always please do remember that magistrates are categorized as Judicial Magistrates and Executive Magistrates. The magistrates who have been mentioned so far comes under the category of Judicial Magistrates. They essentially perform judicial functions only and are under the control of the High Courts. Whereas the Executive Magistrates come under the control of state government. They specifically perform police functions and also other administrative functions. Why the magistrates are classified as such, that is as Judicial Magistrates and Executive Magistrates? It is because judiciary should be completely separated from the executive. This is based on the principle of separation of power. Following this, the magistrates are categorized as Judicial Magistrates and Executive Magistrates. Now, let us move to the second criteria in the competency of the criminal code, which is nothing but jurisdiction. As said before, jurisdiction means the territorial limits within which a court can exercise its power. The Supreme Court, being the highest court, has jurisdiction all over India. The High Court has jurisdiction for each concerned state or one or more states. Next in line to the High Courts, Sessions Court are established in every district. If a district doesn't fall under metropolitan area, then Judicial Magistrates Court can be established. Therefore, to understand the hierarchy of criminal courts, we have considered its classification, constitution, and finally its competency. Under the competency, we have also covered the powers and jurisdiction of the criminal courts. Being aware of these things would enable an advocate or even a commoner to understand where to file a criminal case and where not to file a criminal case. Thanks a lot. We'll meet you again.